Her wicked stepmother hated her for being fat, but destiny crowned her instead. In the quiet village of Umuọgwụ lived a full-figured young girl named Efemena, who was her father's only treasure, born in a clay hut beside the ancient iroko tree. Her days were shaped by simple joys and deep affection. Her father, Okiemute, was a palm wine tapper, and Efemena would rise before dawn to follow him into the grove, carrying gourds while he climbed the tall trees with practiced ease. Her mother, Oghogho, would welcome them home with warm fufu and bitter leaf soup, always reminding Efemena, "Your body carries the blessings of our ancestors. Never let anyone make you feel small." But their peaceful world crumbled when fever swept through the village one harmattan season, stealing her mother's breath in the dead of night. On the grey morning they buried Oghogho. Efemena's smile vanished, and her father collapsed into a grief so heavy he could barely speak. Yet sorrow does not stop the sun from rising. Moons later, while selling palm wine at the village market, Okiemute encountered a widow named Mama Isiua, who was slender and sharp-eyed, with a tongue as quick as a whip. She praised the broken man, cooing that he carried too much burden alone and deserved a woman's comfort. Weakened by loneliness and aching for relief from his pain, Okiemute surrendered to her flattery and made her his wife. She arrived with her daughter, Isiua, and though Efemena dared to hope she had gained a new mother and companion, that hope withered before it could bloom. Instead of warmth, she received contempt. While the vain and idle Isiua adorned herself and lounged in the shade, Efemena was made to scrub, fetch, and toil, mocked daily for her weight by a stepmother who whispered poison into her father's ears. "That fat girl will bring shame to this house. No man will ever want her." Mama Isiua wasted no time revealing her true face. The very night she crossed the threshold as Okiemute's wife, her eyes swept over Efemena with open disgust. "So this is your daughter?" she said, circling the girl like a trader inspecting damaged goods. "She is big, too big. What man will pay bride price for such a body?" Okiemute said nothing. His silence became Efemena's first wound. From that day, the hut that once echoed with her mother's laughter became a place of torment. Mama Isiua assigned Efemena every grueling task, fetching water before the cock crowed, pounding yam until her arms burned, scrubbing pots until her knuckles bled. Meanwhile, Isiua reclined on woven mats, rubbing shea butter into her slender arms and admiring her reflection in a small mirror. "Efemena! Faster, you lazy elephant!" Mama Isiua would screech, striking her back with a wooden spoon. The villagers noticed. They whispered, but no one intervened. Each night, Efemena collapsed onto her thin mat in the corner, her mother's words growing fainter in her memory. "Your body carries the blessings of our ancestors." She wanted to believe it, but with each insult, each blow, that belief crumbled like dry earth. The news arrived with the beating of royal drums. A messenger draped in fine red cloth rode into Umuọgwụ on a white horse, his voice thundering across the village square. "Hear this, people of the land. Prince Osohon, son of the great king, seeks a bride. He shall visit every village to find a maiden worthy of the throne. Prepare your daughters." The village erupted. Women shrieked with joy. Fathers puffed their chests. Young maidens rushed home to oil their skin and braid their hair. The air crackled with dreams of royalty, but no one's eyes gleamed brighter than Mama Isiua's. She grabbed Isiua by the shoulders, her voice trembling with greed. "This is it. This is your moment. You will be queen and I will live in the palace." Isiua smiled, already imagining golden robes and servants at her feet. In the corner of the compound, Efemena overheard everything. For one foolish heartbeat, hope flickered in her chest. Perhaps the prince might see her. Perhaps he might look beyond. "And you?" Mama Isiua's voice sliced through her thoughts, cold as harmattan wind. "Will stay out of sight. A prince does not marry a pig." The hope died instantly. That night, Mama Isiua could not sleep. She paced the hut, her wrapper swishing against the mud floor. Isiua was beautiful, yes, but beauty alone was not enough. The stepmother had seen how Efemena moved through the village, how people softened when she smiled, how even strangers warmed to her gentle spirit. There was something about the girl that drew the eye, something that had nothing to do with her size. It was dangerous. "I will not risk it," Mama Isiua muttered to herself. "That fat fool will not ruin my daughter's destiny." By morning, her plan was complete. She dragged Efemena from her mat before dawn, throwing a bundle of torn rags at her feet. "Put these on. From today, you live in the barn with the pigs. You will not show your face until the prince leaves this village." Efemena's lips trembled. "But Mama, The cane struck her shoulder before she could finish. "Silence!" Mama Isiua hissed, her face twisted with venom. "No prince will ever want a fat servant girl. You are nothing. You will always be nothing. Now get out of my sight." Efemena crawled toward the barn, her tears falling into the red dust. 3 days passed. Efemena slept on hay, ate scraps, and spoke to no one but the pigs. On the 4th morning, Mama Isiua thrust an empty clay pot into her hands. "The stream, now, and if anyone sees you, I will break your legs." Efemena slipped away before sunrise, her bare feet silent on the damp earth. The stream lay beyond the palm grove, far from prying eyes. She knelt at the water's edge, filling the pot, when a weak voice startled her. "Child, please!" An old woman sat crumpled beneath a mango tree, her clothes tattered, her face gaunt with hunger. She stretched a trembling hand toward the stream. "Water, I beg you." Efemena hesitated. If she delayed, Mama Isiua would beat her. But the old woman's eyes, deep and weary, reminded her of her mother's final gaze. She could not walk away. Efemena knelt beside her, lifting the pot to the woman's cracked lips. "Drink, Mama, slowly." The old woman drank deeply, then studied Efemena's face with strange intensity. "You are kind, child. The ancestors see what others overlook." Efemena smiled sadly. "I am nothing, Mama, just a fat girl hidden in a barn." The old woman said nothing, but her eyes flickered with knowing light. The prince arrived at midday when the sun hung high and golden. Women lined the village square, their daughters oiled and adorned like precious offerings. Drums pounded, children climbed trees to catch a glimpse of royalty. And there, stepping down from his horse, was Prince Oghogho, tall, broad-shouldered, with kind eyes that searched the crowd slowly. Mama Isiua nearly shoved Isiua forward. "Your Highness," Isiua purred, her smile rehearsed, her hips swaying. "I am Isiua, fairest daughter of Umuọgwụ. I would make a worthy queen." The prince studied her. She was beautiful, yes, smooth skin, slender waist, painted lips, but when he looked into her eyes, he found nothing. No warmth, no depth, only hunger for a crown. He stepped back politely. "You are lovely, but my heart does not stir." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Isiua's smile cracked. The prince moved on, greeting other maidens, but his expression remained unchanged. One by one, he passed them all, something unspoken missing in each face. Finally, he mounted his horse. "I will return tomorrow. Perhaps the one I seek has not yet appeared." In the shadows, Mama Isiua's fists shook with rage. Her eyes darted toward the barn. This was Efemena's fault. Somehow it had to be. That evening, hunger gnawed at Efemena's belly like a living thing. Mama Isiua had thrown her a handful of cold cassava, punishment for existing while Isiua suffered rejection. Efemena clutched the meager portion, her stomach growling. It was barely enough for a child, let alone a grown girl. But as she crept toward the barn, a familiar voice stopped her. "Child!" The old woman sat slumped against the village wall, weaker than before. Her bones pressed against her skin. Her hands trembled as she reached toward Efemena. "Please, I have not eaten in days." Efemena looked at the cassava in her palm. her only meal. Her body screamed to keep it, but her heart screamed louder. Without a word, she knelt and placed every morsel into the old woman's hands. "Eat, Mama. You need it more than I do." The old woman chewed slowly, tears slipping down her weathered cheeks. When she finished, she cupped Efemina's face with surprising tenderness. "Child," she whispered, "the ancestors see what humans overlook. Your body is not a curse. It is a vessel of gold. Remember this when the world tries to make you forget." Efemena wept quietly. For the first time in years, she felt seen. Mama Isiuwa was waiting when Efemena returned, her face twisted with fury, veins bulging at her temples. Isiuwa stood behind her, arms crossed, smirking with cruel satisfaction. "Where were you?" Mama Isiuwa's voice was ice. I was just... The first blow came before she could finish. The cane cracked against her back, sending her sprawling into the dirt. "You cursed her!" Mama Isiuwa screamed, striking again and again. "Your fatness brought shame upon this house. You poisoned the prince's eyes against my daughter." "Mama, please." Efemena curled into herself, arms shielding her head. "I did nothing." "Liar!" Another blow. "Witch!" Another. "Worthless pig!" Okiemute stood in the doorway, watching. His lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. He simply turned and walked away, leaving his daughter bleeding in the dust. Finally, Mama Isiuwa grabbed Efemena by her hair and dragged her toward the barn. "Stay here and rot. If the prince returns tomorrow, you will not breathe the same air as him." She slammed the wooden door shut. Alone in the darkness, Efemena sobbed into the hay, her mother's words fading like dying embers. "Perhaps they were right. Perhaps I am nothing." Morning came with the sound of royal drums. Efemena stirred in the hay, her body aching from last night's beating. Through the cracks in the barn door, she saw chaos. Villagers scrambling, Mama Isiuwa barking orders, Isiuwa hastily adjusting her wrapper. The prince had returned, but he was not alone. Beside him walked an elderly woman draped in royal blue, her posture straight as a spear, her presence commanding instant silence. The villagers fell to their knees. Mama Isiuwa's face drained of color. It was the Queen Mother. "Where is she?" The Queen Mother's voice rang out, sharp and clear. "Where is the girl who showed me kindness when no one else would?" Mama Isiuwa stammered. Your Highness, I do not understand." But the Queen Mother was already walking, past the kneeling crowd, past the trembling stepmother, straight toward the barn. She pulled open the door. Sunlight flooded in, illuminating Efemena, dirty, tear-streaked, dressed in rags, cowering in the hay. The Queen Mother smiled. "Rise, child." She extended her hand. "I was the old woman at the stream. I was the beggar you fed. And now the whole village will see what I saw." Efemena took her hand, trembling. Her destiny had arrived. The Queen Mother led Efemena into the square, and the village fell silent. Prince Osohon stepped forward, his eyes fixed on the trembling girl before him. She was covered in dirt. Her rags hung loose, her hair was tangled with hay. But when he looked into her eyes, he saw what he had searched for in every maiden, a heart that glowed brighter than gold. He knelt before her. "I have traveled through many villages," he said softly, "but none possessed what you carry. Kindness, courage, a soul that gives when it has nothing." He took her hand. "Will you be my queen?" Efemina's tears fell freely. "But I am just..." "You are everything." The village erupted. Women wept. Children cheered. And there, crumbling into the dust, Mama Isiuwa and Isiuwa fell to their knees, wailing for mercy. Efemena looked at them, the women who had starved her, beaten her, called her worthless. She walked toward them slowly, then she lifted them to their feet. "You wanted me hidden," she whispered, "but the ancestors saw me, and I forgive you." She turned to the prince, her head held high. A fat girl from the barn had become queen. If this story touched you, subscribe to the channel for more African folktales. Like, comment, and share with someone who needs to hear that true beauty comes from within. What would you have done? Forgiven Mama Isiwa or let her face justice? Tell us in the comments.